Welcome to today's Explainer. You know, when you hear about the sudden disappearances of elite defense scientists, you really have to wonder, are these just incredibly tragic coincidences, or are we looking at evidence of a chilling geopolitical reality? Today, we're putting on our investigative journalist hats to examine a series of baffling cases that have completely captured the attention of lawmakers and internet sleuths alike. Let's look past the rumors together and see what the evidence actually tells us. To really understand the gravity here, we need to look at the macro-level pattern. It begs a pretty terrifying question. Are elite defense scientists uniquely vulnerable to mysterious fates? When people with top-secret, high-level clearances suddenly vanish or end up dead, well, it naturally invites some intense, chilling scrutiny. And we aren't just talking about a one-off event.
In fact, we're looking at a chilling historical pattern. This isn't exactly a new phenomenon, right? Back in 1953, biochemist Frank Olson inexplicably plummeted from a 10th-floor hotel window in Manhattan. Then, jump to 2010. Former U.S. official John Wheeler III was found dead in a landfill with blunt force trauma. But the recent cluster is what's truly staggering. Just between 2023 and 2024, at least 11 U.S. aerospace and nuclear scientists vanished or died suddenly. We're talking about individuals like Neil McCluskey and Amy Eskridge, people deeply tied to highly classified aerospace, nuclear secrets, and even alleged gravity modification research.
These cases have absolutely escalated from local police matters to the highest levels of government. Representatives James Comer and Eric Burleson recently demanded action, stating these deaths may represent a, quote, grave threat to U.S. national security. When there's a vacuum of solid facts, internet theories just spread like wildfire. Everything from foreign assassination plots to massive UFO cover-ups. So to find the truth, we need to zoom in on one fiercely debated case.
Let's peel back the layers. Our anchor case centers on a 31-year-old American electronics engineer named Shane Todd. See, in June 2012, his death in Singapore ignited an absolute international diplomatic firestorm. This case literally has all the elements of a spy thriller. You've got an American researcher, a strategic Asian ally, an emerging global rival in China, and a family completely convinced of a deadly cover-up.
To fully grasp the stakes, you have to look at the technology Todd was working on, gallium nitride or GaN. So what is that? Basically, it's a highly restricted, wide-band gap semiconductor material that can withstand extreme heat. It's a real game changer. It's absolutely crucial for things like advanced military active radars and secure satellite communications. Todd was working with this material at Singapore's Institute for Microelectronics, and this research had massive, dual-use national security implications. But just before his death, two entirely different narratives started to emerge. Professionally, it looked like a routine exit. Todd had put in his 60 days notice, he accepted a new job at an American research firm, and his coworkers said he was upbeat. Totally normal. Yet privately, he was exhibiting intense high-tech paranoia. During panicked Skype calls, he told his parents he was being pressured to compromise U.S. security with the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. He even explicitly warned his mother to contact the embassy if he went silent.
Tragically, those warnings materialized. On June 24, 2012, Todd's girlfriend discovered his body hanging in his unlocked apartment. His parents, Rick and Mary Todd, immediately rushed to Singapore, and right off the bat, they completely rejected the idea of suicide. Fueled by those prior warnings, they firmly believed their son was actually murdered to protect an illicit technology transfer pipeline.
At this point, the investigation just instantly fractured. On one side, the official narrative from Singapore police ruled it a clear-cut suicide by hanging, citing no signs of forced entry. But on the other side, the family's murder theory pointed to some glaring crime scene anomalies. They claimed the apartment layout didn't match the police descriptions, the toilet was misplaced, and shockingly, the scene was never even taped off or dusted for fingerprints.
And this intense divergence extended right into the medical evidence, too. The family hired their own U.S. pathologist, who suggested Todd had suffered blunt force trauma, basically theorizing a struggle, garroting, or maybe even a taser. However, two independent U.S. medical examiners totally corroborated the Singapore state's findings. They testified that the marks on Todd's hands were just post-mortem lividity, which is completely typical in hanging cases, and they found zero signs of a struggle.
Then, there were the suicide notes. Todd allegedly left behind messages apologizing for being a burden and praising his management. Well, his family found those sentiments absolutely absurd, given what he'd been saying just days prior. They even hired a criminologist, David Camp,
who analyzed the text and concluded that the cultural phrasing and syntax were so uncharacteristic of Shane that, quote, someone else wrote it.
The physical evidence debate reached a boiling point over Todd's external hard drive. The family found out a critical file had been accessed and deleted on June 27th, days after his body was discovered. Naturally, this sparked massive suspicion. They even refused to hand the drive directly over to the FBI at first. But by May 2013, an official FBI report actually cleared this all up. The deletion wasn't an assassin covering their tracks. It was literally just an automatic Microsoft system function triggered when the Singapore police plugged it in to check for evidence.
Now, this micro-level dispute over a hard drive rapidly escalated into a full-blown geopolitical standoff. U.S. Senators Max Baucus and John Tester actually threatened to block $500,000 in funding to the Singaporean research agency until the FBI got full access. Obviously, Singapore fiercely defended its sovereignty against this congressional pressure. Though ultimately, to de-escalate the entire situation, Singapore's foreign minister pledged full cooperation with the FBI.
You see, Singapore was walking a very delicate tightrope here. As legal scholar Eugene Tan noted, Singapore had to prove it wasn't merely a pawn in the broader escalating US-China technological rivalry. They had to fiercely protect their own sovereignty, while at the exact same time transparently proving to America that absolutely no restricted military tech had slipped through the crack.
The formal coroner's inquiry in May 2013 brought some major digital and medical revelations that really dealt a heavy blow to the espionage theory. Digital forensics showed Todd's laptop had visited suicide-related websites 19 times. His medical history revealed prescribed antidepressants. Plus, they found absolutely no hacking attempts on the laptop. And crucially, testimony confirmed that the GAN amplifier project with Huawei never actually progressed past initial discussions. No classified tech was transferred.
The inquiry itself reached an extremely dramatic climax. Following a surprise witness testimony, the Todd family abruptly walked out. They discharged their legal counsel right there and declared they were taking their case to the court of public opinion back home in the US. To political observers, this sudden departure signaled that the family's reaction was driven much more by raw emotion and a complete loss of faith in the judicial process, rather than any sustainable legal footing.
Finally, on July 8, 2013, the Singapore state coroner delivered the final verdict, asphyxia due to hanging, with zero evidence of foul play. The U.S. Embassy then released a statement praising the inquiry as being comprehensive, fair, and transparent. This officially closed the diplomatic chapter of the incident, even as the family continued to protest the findings online. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question. When we look at Shane Todd, or the recent sudden disappearances of defense scientists like Neil McCasland and Amy Eskridge, what are we really seeing? Are these deeply tragic personal losses that have just been amplified by internet paranoia? Or is the dark reality of global technological espionage still quietly operating in the shadows? I'll leave it up to you to weigh the evidence. Thanks for joining us on This Explainer.